All right, well, this is 5 straight days. Not 5 straight days. I guess that's misstated. It is 5 straight weekdays that we've been here on Section 1904. I don't know what that counts for, but it is certainly a streak for yours truly since the end of June of 2024 of consecutive days speaking into a microphone. So that feels pretty good. Usually what I noticed when I was doing radio, when you would do 3 hours of radio, somewhere around Thursday, you could start feeling your vocal cords starting to get a little raspy, starting to just feel a little bit stretched. And then by Friday afternoon, you were mostly shot and you were thinking, what interviews do I have that we could rerun here? So I can just get my way till 3 o'clock in the afternoon and start my weekend because I'm kind of toast. Yes, these are the trials and the tribulations of broadcasters in 2025. Welcome in. It is a Thursday. It is Section 1904. John G is still on vacation, yet he's taking time out of his vacation to hang out here for a little bit. John, good to talk.
Good to talk. I have a status update on my vacation, even so far as calling it a vacation. But before I get that, raspiness. I want to talk about raspiness because I want people to know that we're already sacrificing for this show. So a thing that many people do not know is that I have asthma, struggle with asthma. I have an inhaler that I bring with me everywhere. It's called a rescue inhaler. It's basically meant to save my life if I'm having some sort of asthma attack. And at some point in the last year or two, my regular doctor put me on a daily, like it's a powder you inhale. And I've been doing this twice a day for probably over a year. And it has greatly improved my asthma, my ability to breathe. But for some reason, I lose like so much power in my voice. And I noticed when I was listening back to episodes of Section 1904, or even, I guess, sections of episodes of Bandwagon Beach, that I would lose the power of my voice. I would start getting raspy like halfway through. And so I've stopped using the powder. I'm going to talk with my doctor. He did say there's like a pill I can take instead. We can try that. But for right now, I'm not taking my daily asthma medication because it would hurt the podcast. Speaking of the podcast and my vacation, I have a friend that I worked with at Yahoo Sports. Her name is Liz Loza. She now works at ESPN. She's one of their fantasy football gurus. She does a lot of other stuff for them too, Olympics coverage and what have you. And Liz, one time I went on vacation, quote unquote vacation. I came back and she was like, how was vacation? Blah, blah, blah. And I mentioned something about having our kid with us, right? Me, my wife, and our kid. And she was like, wait, you brought your kid? I'm like, yeah. She goes, that's not vacation. You took a trip. And she's totally right. This has been a trip, not really a vacation. There's been minimal time to relax but the kid needs to be entertained. Otherwise, she starts yelling about being bored and she starts getting annoying, or we just start feeling like bad parents. So it's been a lot of running around. My wife is sick and just like kind of powering through it as much as possible.
Oh my goodness, this is, and you're in Ojai.
And we are in Ojai, which honestly, lovely. It's beautiful here. The air is clean. The water is incredible. Like right out of the tap water is unbelievable here.
Oh, the tap water, that kind of water. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, no, the tap waters have been incredible. They grow a lot of stuff here. They're known for their pixie tangerines, which are kind of like the little cutie things. They're known for their lavender. They're known for their olive oil. Or I guess the olives. We're going to go olive oil tasting at some point today, I think. We're going to go visit an outdoor bookstore. We're going to go check out a pizza place later on. So we got plans on our last day, but I think everyone is just kind of pushing through as much as they can today to get to tomorrow when we get back to Carlsbad and our house and our dog and our lives. And then we'll just spend the weekend recovering from our trip. Not our vacation, our trip.
Got it. Recovery from the trip. Yeah. Ojai, by the way, bonus points for anybody out there who's listening who doesn't know where Ojai is or doesn't know how to spell Ojai.
Yeah.
I will say the first time I ever heard of Ojai, our former colleague Billy Ray Smith, his in-laws, Kimberly Hunt's parents live in Ojai.
Oh.
So when I first moved to San Diego, he used to say, well, I'm spending the weekend in Ojai, or I'm taking the family up to Ojai. And I was like, Ojai, Ohio, O-H-I. You know, how does that? And it's nothing like that. So bonus points for anybody out there who's listening who A, knows how to get to Ojai, and B, knows how to spell Ojai, because it is certainly not what you would expect if you're unfamiliar with where it is and how it is spelled.
Yeah, we actually, so I didn't exactly know where it was. Basically, you have to go to Oxnard, home of our good buddy Alex Padilla. It's his hometown. And then you take a little highway kind of off into a valley east, and it's over here. Did bump into, at the pool yesterday, the daughter and son-in-law and grandchildren of one Norvell Turner.
Whoa!
Former head coach of the San Diego Chargers. There was rumors that Norv and his wife might have been around too, but I didn't press. Am I correct in this? I didn't look this up. You might remember this. Wasn't Norv's daughter a cheerleader on the Chargers? Do I remember that correctly?
I do not remember that. I know that Norv's son went into coaching, but I do not know. I do not remember. As a matter of fact, I think this is the first time that I've ever even heard that Norv Turner has a daughter.
I feel like back in the old Bolts from the Blue days, someone pointed out to me the fact that Norv's daughter, it was some coach had a daughter that was on the Chargers cheerleading team, and I think it was
the Charger girls.
Which means I think it was her that I met yesterday, Stephanie Turner. I won't try and spoil anything. Apparently, she's got content plans with her and her father that I'm looking forward to.
Oh, good. I always liked Norv. I felt like Norv was, that was one of the coaches that you come across who you just genuinely like as a human being.
He would treat you like a human being.
Not
all coaches treat you like a human being.
One time, somebody said it best. Somebody, when we used to take phone calls on the radio, I remember somebody calling in. So it must have been, 2008, 2009, somewhere in that era. And somebody's like, listen, we get it. Norv's a good coordinator. The man knows how to diagram a play. He's probably a great neighbor, but he's just not a good head coach. And I was like, wow, I was picturing Norv driving around somewhere on the 5 freeway going, I think I'm okay with somebody saying I'm really good at this and I'd be a great neighbor and they're not attacking me and they're not calling me all sorts of horrible names. But they just don't think that I'm head coaching material. And I always just remember that line, like, I bet you he's a great neighbor. He would definitely, if you forgot to put your recycling bins out, Norv got your back, man. Norv would definitely put your recycling bins out in the alley. I always thought that about Norv. I was like, yeah, that's like one of the great ways of saying, I'm just not convinced that he's a good head coach.
Super backhanded compliment. Also, hilariously, one of the first things that always pops into my head is Norv Turner. Great neighbor. You know who his neighbor was?
I think Carson Palmer was
Carson Palmer, who I think on your show or on someone else's show, I heard him talk about Norv with his neighbor, and he was a great neighbor. So, I've thought about that all the time.
Yeah, well, good luck driving back from Ojai. So you're going to go the freeway route. Sometimes you could take the local route. You can go down the coast and you go through Malibu, and then you maybe cut in through Los Angeles. But you do you.
We considered that's still on the table. Either we're going to take the 101 through the valley and then catch the 405 down, or depending on how my wife is feeling tomorrow, probably we thought about taking the coastal route into Malibu and going to our favorite seafood place for lunch. But we're actually a little concerned. There's signs all over that say the Pacific Coast Highway is still closed after the fires.
Got it.
And you can't get around in Malibu except on the PCH. So I think if we end up avoiding it, it's going to be out of fear that we don't want to get stuck over there somewhere with some road closures.
Well, I'm glad we're underway here. It's just a little bit past 10 o'clock. Obviously, by the time people listen to this podcast, it'll be a little later in the day because I have found myself, I am not a very disciplined person. I said when I went to bed last night, usually I try to get up in the morning and I make it a personal goal each and every day, John, to wake up and to try to do something productive before I gravitate towards my phone.
Interesting.
And so when you get up, the first thing that you want to do, the first thing that I would like to do is, get some sort of exercise, drink a little bit of water, do that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
I fail at this often, almost all the time, as a matter of fact. And then when I went to bed last night, I said the thing I wasn't going to do when I woke up today was check my 401k.
Ooh.
But I couldn't resist that. So I've basically been sitting here waiting, trying to distract myself from logging on to my financial website to see what it is that's going on. So here's how I've done that. I tried to scroll through some television. Pat McAfee was talking about the Cincinnati Bengals. Colin Cowherd was talking about Aaron Rodgers.
Mm-hmm.
Then I checked email. Thank you to Christopher Moreno. Thank you to Daniel Flores. Thank you to Jamie. As I scroll here, Dean and many, many more.
All the new paid subscribers.
Yes, Jonathan Garcia. Thank you guys. And I realize that I'm totally just cherry picking a handful of people that have subscribed to this podcast, or at least committed to subscribe once it is that we decide that we're going to go full launch mode. So thank you to you guys. And if people do want to subscribe, John, for people that are listening here, if they haven't yet done so.
Very, very easy to do. Go to section1904.com, click the red button at the top right that I think says subscribe, or once you're logged in says account. There are several different tier levels to choose from. I think they describe what they're meant to include or not include. We're not really doing anything with those different tier levels as of yet. We're not even charging anyone as of yet. This is a free trial period. It's a bit of a soft opening opening for Section 1904. If you like what you hear, you want to support us, you want us to keep doing this, as many weekdays in a row as is possible within our schedules, we will do so, and you will encourage us to do so by signing up, taking the free trial. And, hopefully you like things enough that once the credit card bill comes in, you want to continue to pay that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I get it. As we're sitting here talking about, current state of affairs economically, I don't think I'm the only person who actually resisted or didn't resist the urge to log on today and went, oh my God.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, that's a lot worse than I thought.
Yeah.
And I was prepared to see something pretty horrific looking there. But we understand. I mean, I get these bills all the time. I don't know about you, from Apple that say, hey, thank you for your subscription. I'm like, well, what is this?
Yeah.
What have I subscribed to?
Yeah.
I've sort of forgotten. What is it that I've subscribed to here? Oh, okay. Yeah, that's right. I wanted to watch this random Colombian soccer match that one time. So I subscribed to a channel called VIX, and now there it is all the time. I went to watch the Padres the other day. I was like, when did I even renew this subscription? I don't even remember renewing this subscription. I'm sure it's on some sort of auto renew. So we get it. The point we're trying to make here isn't to discourage anybody or dissuade anybody from subscribing once we get to that point, once we get to that line, because we understand there's a lot of different people coming at you from a lot of different directions. So, let us just be included in that, and let us earn it. Like, make sure that we earn it. I was approached by somebody in media, and I'll have this conversation with you off the air today.
Sure.
Who said, let me know if you're interested in how to monetize this little podcast that you're doing. I went, okay. I kind of suspect I know which direction this is going to go. And maybe there's a conversation to be had somewhere down the road about advertising. I don't know. I've just done that for so many years, and I'm just reluctant to do it again. Not because I dislike advertisers, because I love the advertisers. I do. I love them all. Yeah. I've had advertisers approach and say, listen, we would be interested in backing you in a project. And I'm always like, okay. But I want to have the freedom to say whatever the hell we want to say without ever there being any potential backlash towards anybody whatsoever somewhere down the road. So, I do want to just see where we can take this with Section 1904, because you and I are in alignment that we believe that there could be a market for something like this on a local level that's never really been done before. Yeah, there's plenty of people that are doing great local projects, but I don't know that anybody's doing it exactly like this model here. And there's just only so many advertising dollars to go around also. And I do worry a little bit that the advertising well is getting lower and lower and lower all the time. So, we're sorting through this is what I'm trying to say here. And again, it's been a long morning, and lots of people probably like me were completely undisciplined. Did you go and look at your 401k or your savings or your investments or your portfolio? I don't even know that you do or don't have this sort of stuff. But did you go and look, and did you go, oh my God, what's happening here?
I have been more disciplined than you. Part of it is because I've spent my morning, dealing with like, hey, we have to get breakfast and coffee in this hotel room that only has an espresso machine. And we have to make plans for the day. Where are we going to have lunch? Where are we going to have dinner? What are we going to do with these hours? So I've been distracted by the vacation of it all. I keep every so often opening Bluesky. My wife turned on the news for a little while. I was doing some research into where the circuit breaker is when the New York Stock Exchange literally turns stuff off because they're worried that a crash is coming. We're not quite there yet. We're about halfway there for today. So I guess I've been more disciplined than you. But in the category of advertisers, Let's do this real quick because I was talking with someone about this yesterday. I was talking to a company that does, paid podcasts and subscriptions, and I was trying to get some information from them, but also just talk a little shop. And we were talking about our favorite pieces of content over the last few months and where they came from. Did they come from TV? Did they come from radio? Did they come from podcasts? Did they come from YouTube? And I pointed out this one piece of content, and I'm not even going to mention what it is because it doesn't matter, where two guys were talking, and they were talking about the election, and they were on, one side of the political spectrum, and one of them started crying because he was so upset at not even what was happening. This was months ago. It was what he thought might happen, which is kind of what happened. And he cried on this, it went out on a YouTube video and it went out on a podcast, which is where I heard it. And I said, when you are community supported, when you are fan supported, it is an encouragement to be as authentic as possible, right? We had a comment on section1904.com when we talked about Ben and Wood's 7th anniversary, where someone said, one of the reasons I like Ben and Woods is they talk about their lives, they talk about their kids, they talk about stuff that is authentic to them. And you guys, please don't ever lose that. Please don't ever get told to stick to sports. Like, we want to know about you and who you are. And I was like, when you're fan supported, you lean into authenticity. If you are advertiser supported, literally it goes through your head of like, if I cry right here, what are the advertisers going to think of that? Are they gonna be like, ooh, that's not what we want to associate ourselves with. We're supposed to be the tough brand or whatever, right? So just to have that out of your mind of what are advertisers going to think if I say this, and allows you to be more yourself, is a big reason why I think we both wanted to at least start fan-supported, community-funded, and go from there.
Right. Never say never.
Yeah.
I know we live in a world now where plenty of people keep receipts. So, someday if we're hawking some product, if we're fortunate enough to do this for any period of time beyond, hey, let's give it a shot here and see what it looks like after a couple of weeks or a couple of months. I'm never going to say never, but I think we would. Here's the other thing that I'm really fearful of, and I'll choose my words carefully so that they don't sound like I'm directing them at anybody individually. I also don't want to sit here and just be hawking like 3-team teases all day. Like, hey, and use the promo code section 1904 and you're going to get $50 in matching betting opportunities. And, I don't want to be the latest guy just to bang on about FanDuel or what are the ones that you hear sometimes around town?
DraftKings?
Whatever they are. Yeah. There's an Underdog or
ESPN
something.
Bet.
I don't even know what they are. Or what the ones that are legal here in the state of California, because you can't do FanDuel right now, right? And let me tell you, I mean, like strategically, behind the curtain at local radio, right, from 2 different places, over 20 years of experience, there's a lot of people that are sitting on the edges of their seats waiting for the legalized sports gambling to really go into effect in the state of California, because then you're going to hear about the names of the studios. You're going to hear about all the things that are going to be named, the DraftKings studios, the FanDuel studios. Right now, there's some loopholes in the system where you can go and you can bet on individual players, but you can't really bet on the individual teams, right? So you hear certain people around town and they're hawking this kind of stuff, and you're like, okay, I don't know. I mean, I'm all for people gambling. I mean, I think gambling can be exciting. When I go to Vegas, I gamble on sports. I don't do it anymore. I don't do it on my phone. I've learned that I'm just not very good at it, even after all these years of feeling like you know a thing or two. So, I'm not anti. I do think some of the stuff is kind of predatory, especially the app-based stuff. Man, super. I mean, it's really predatory, the kind of stuff that's going on there. And I do worry what it's going to look like over the next couple of years when there will be real repercussions from all the people, and especially all the young people that are spending so much time doing this. But, back to what we're actually discussing. I just don't want to, I don't know. I mean, I see friends of mine who are in this business and hey, listen, there's a lot of poor people who have great morals. These are people that are probably raking in a lot of money. They're probably bringing in thousands of bucks per month, and they get to go to nice restaurants and they get to live in nice houses and all that sort of stuff. And here I am trying to ask you to toss us a fin every once in a while, $5. So. I don't want to sound like I'm on a moral high horse here. I mean, we all got to earn a living, and it's an expensive place to live, and it's an expensive state. I'm not even talking about people locally in San Diego. I have friends of mine who do this all across the country. I'm always like, are you really into that? Like, are you really, really into that? And that's the other thing about advertising, too. I've been very fortunate, John, in my career that my advertisers have actually been friends of mine for the most part. I would say like 90% of them are people that I know, people that I trust, people that I've actually worked with. I just don't want to end up in a situation. You and I listen to a lot of podcasts.
Yeah.
Where they do like the reads before the show, and you can tell they're just reading this. Tony Kornheiser used to do this sort of stuff.
Yep.
The Pod Save America guys have done this. Remember when everybody was doing ads for MeUndies?
Yep.
Right? It's like, nobody's using this product, like, and I feel like that's in some way that has to be some sort of commentary on a person's authenticity. But again, there are a lot of people not making any money who have really, really high morals, and I probably sound like one of them.
I really love that your example before you said no one's using any of these things was MeUndies, because I 100% bought MeUndies with like a podcast promo code like 10 years ago. Yeah. I don't wear them anymore, but I wore them for a long time. They're very comfortable. I would recommend them if they were an advertiser. No, the other side of why we wanted to be like community supported and fan supported is like, if we wanted to today, we could sit here and we could have a whole conversation about the stock market, the politics, my vacation, like anything, right? Whereas if we were like sitting here talking about the stock market and then it was like, hey, here's a live read about Prize Picks, your brain would just be like, wait, there's something really bad happening here. Or Prize Picks would be like, why aren't you talking about sports? We're a sports betting app, right? Like just the ability to talk about the things that are important to us and to be authentic is the freedom that this type of project can afford us if we get enough people signing up. So
right. And a lot of these products also find themselves being politicized as well. I mean, we're such a stupid country. We've figured out a way to politicize everything from coffee makers to fast food to crappy domestic beer. Everything. So, sometimes it's like, oh, wow, like that guy is sponsored by Bud Light. I wonder what he's going to have to say about Bud Light, and is there going to be some ridiculous backlash, so there's a lot of that stuff too. And the advertising thing in radio, I mean, it's just so weird. I'll always remember when I first started at Mighty 1090, Scott and BR, they were sponsored by Coors Light. They had a great partnership with Coors Light.
Sure.
And for whatever reason, I don't recall exactly, Coors Light decided that, Coors Light was going to not advertise on their show. And like a week later, they were advertising Bud Light. I was always just like, whatever. People like them, so they'll do what it is that, they promote. And, I guess that's the way that worked. If it still works that way, it's unclear to me. All right. Anyhow, so I'm glad to be sitting here with something to do other than watching all my money the day after Liberation Day be liberated from my 401k, since I've seen tens of thousands of dollars liberated from my account, which has not been a very settling moment at all. And I actually emailed our financial advisor. I was like, hey, I'm just checking in with you. Like, are you doing okay? And he was smart enough a month ago to say, maybe we take some of these underperforming or these middle of the road performing, maybe we cash them in, be satisfied with where we are when we put them into powder, put them into something where you're not, you're not going to lose. Put them into some sort of money market, those kind of things. So hopefully this will just be temporary.
I mean, here's the thing. My wife works in the finance industry, so she fancies herself a bit of an expert. And she's also surrounded by all these finance guys who've been doing it for decades and decades, who went to Ivy League schools and are considered, titans of the industry. And all of them say the same thing every single time. Every single time the market goes down, just hold on. It'll come back up. It's a long game. Don't freak out. The markets have priced this in. I'm like, the markets are down 4%. Well, they would be down more, except the markets priced this in. And so like the response to everything is literally A, the markets have priced this in, and B, just hold on. This will all blow over. Eventually things will go back up. And I'm like sitting here going like, you're only right until you're wrong. And when you're wrong forever. And it's like, that's not a game that I like to play. But, as I'm sitting here, quote unquote, self-employed, bringing in a $5 here and there, and she's out there making the real money with the real 401k plan and all that, I guess I kind of have to defer to her and her contemporary financial wisdom, which is that this will all blow over eventually.
Yeah, well, we hope so. I guess the only salvation that any of us have is maybe that Dave Portnoy from Barstool Sports somehow starts making a ruckus on social media, and then maybe some of these policies will reverse. I'm not sure. Do you have any idea what I'm talking about?
I do, and I want to get into this because you
can I read this headline real quick?
Please do.
Because I saw this headline and I did a double take. The White House's barstool problem. I went, what? Dave Portnoy, a Trump supporter and the founder of Barstool Sports, went viral for his blistering critique of the administration's group chat debacle. This is a story from March 28th. And I did happen to see this story. Dave Portnoy, I don't know how many people know who he is.
I wanted you to get to the line where they describe him as a man who reviews pizza after one bite.
Right. Yeah. He did like this 11-minute video. Like it appeared in his backyard. I watched about 2 minutes of it or so. Only because it's something you and I talked about, how Dave Portnoy and Stephen A. Smith have been, they've been analyzing different political moments. Like when that scene from the Oval Office where Vladimir Zelensky was berated by, half the room.
Yeah.
And like both of them took to social media and offered their analysis. And I asked John, because, John's in this space a lot, like, who's asking for that? And you said, well, this is, these are people's favorite broadcasters. And these are now people that are expected to have opinions about everything, not just about LeBron, not just about the Red Sox, not just about Shohei Ohtani, but about everything. It was a 6-minute video, direct to camera. I'm reading here. This was NBC News, by the way. This is an NBC News story.
Yeah.
Portnoy's 6-minute direct to camera video eviscerated Trump officials for inadvertently adding a prominent journalist, Jeffrey Goldberg, to the Signal group chat. And then it quotes him a little bit, talks a little bit about the video, talks about Portnoy's credibility with voters. Right? I'm like, wait, what have I missed here? Let's see. Portnoy did not respond to a request for comment as the dominant figure on one of the leading media and podcasting platforms favored by young men who have drifted rightward in recent years, a demographic that Trump and then Vice President Kamala Harris fought for in the closing weeks of the 2024 election. Leaders in both parties are watching this demographic closely ahead of the next election as they present new policy positions aimed at young men or are increasing engagement with the mostly apolitical podcasts that they consume. Given Portnoy's credibility with those voters, Democrats were quick to promote his commentary. Including, John, former Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg, who requoted or quote tweeted or whatever the fuck it's called. Dave is right on this. It's not our left or right. It was a massive screw up. Michael Bennett, a Democrat from Colorado, also quote tweeted this. Dave Portnoy knows that you can't share classified war plans on a Signal chat. Eric Swalwell, Democrat, California, told NBC News in a message that Portnoy is, quote, 100% right. And he, quote, has credibility because he calls it like he sees it. I'm like, what? Then it goes on a little bit about the history of Portnoy and that he has interviewed Trump and he voted for Trump and he explained why he voted for Trump and all this other sort of stuff. Let's see. What was the other thing I found interesting here? An NBC poll this month found 53% of men, 18 to 49 viewed Trump favorably. This is obviously before today.
Yeah.
What else do we have here? I wanted to get to the one part that I was like, whoa. It got to the point where this video, from Dave Portnoy, where, for whatever reason, he just decided to like shoot a selfie video in the backyard of one of his houses and say, like, this is a disgrace, what's going on with Signal. You put American lives at risk and all the like. And it was a question that was asked to Caroline Leavitt, who is the White House press secretary.
Yeah.
So it made its way into the press secretary briefing. And she said no concerns at all. When asked if the White House was worried about Portnoy's pushback. What? She added that she was unaware of anybody at the White House contacting Dave Portnoy in recent weeks or following his criticism. And I'm like, wait a minute. What? What? I mean, I knew that he had incredible influence, that if somebody wrote something that was negative towards Barstool, I've seen it enough that they would sick their legion of fans on that reporter, right? Like, I think you and I have probably both seen that sort of stuff happen.
Yeah.
Whether this is your cup of tea or not your cup of tea, hey, listen, it's a successful business. It's an interesting model. And it's a model, frankly, that I've been paying a lot of attention to for about 5-7 years. Just thinking maybe at some point, legacy media was just not going to last. But the fact that I got to admit, like, I am really sort of surprised, John, that this person who I knew had influence has this kind of influence that a 6-minute video in his backyard about something as serious as bombing the Houthi rebels would then be turned into a question to Caroline Leavitt in the White House press briefing room. This is a room, by the way, where the opinions of the Associated Press are not welcome anymore because they refuse to use the terminology that this White House wants them to use. The Associated Press, which has won 75 Nobel Prizes, Pulitzer Prizes, I should say, 75 Pulitzer Prizes, which has been around since the 1840s, isn't welcome and is a complete dismissed entity. But Dave Portnoy, though, man, like they're tiptoe, they're walking on eggshells around Dave Portnoy. I mean, you can think whatever you want to think politically. That is a fascinating moment. That is a fascinating development in 2025 to find ourselves in a situation like this.
I have so many thoughts. One of them is going to be kind of a grand theory that I'm going to get into in a second. The first one is, and you are guilty of this too, I'm throwing you in with whoever the hell wrote that article you just read. Has nobody read Portnoy's complaint?
NBC
it's right
Sports.
There.
That's NBC News.
No, but it's why are they not calling this Portnoy's complaint? Like, it's literally a book about a man trying to like aggressively masturbate his way out of depression. Like, it is hilariously. It would have tied into Dave Portnoy so perfectly, and everyone's just ignoring it as a book to reference. Doesn't matter. This is okay. So this is what I wanted to get into this with the McAfee stuff, but let's get into it with the Portnoy stuff because it's the same stuff. The lines that box people in, the stick to sports or stick to anything else, do not exist anymore. And there's a number of reasons for it. One is because a real estate tycoon / casino owner / reality TV star is now the fucking president, right? The other one is that, and like Charles Barkley deserves some of this blame as a guy who said, like, I should not be your role model. I'm just a basketball player. And then went out there was like, I'm going to run for politics. I'm going to put my politics out there. I'm going to be open about it. And guys like me and you, and I'll throw Stephen Woods out there because he posted on Instagram about this recently, and Portnoy and Colin Cowherd, like, we all grew up wanting to be Howard Stern. And the funny thing about Howard Stern's career is there's a point where even I think the beginning of Private Parts, the movie, starts with him at the MTV Video Music Awards dressed up as like Fart Man.
Right.
Just going like, what am I doing here? Like, this is an event for musicians and famous like movie stars. And like, I'm a radio host. Why am I here? And then that was the beginning of Howard Stern will talk about everything and anything with anyone, and he will still have huge ratings, right? Because people are like, I trust Howard. I like Howard. I like the way that Howard interviews people. And when Howard would come out and say, like, this is crazy ass politics that Trump is doing or whatever, there was never any blowback from his fan base because they were all just like, yeah, Howard, we're with you, ride or die, right? So the internet expanded the amount of knowledge that we take in by so much that it became difficult because you'd be like, okay, this is my news guy. This is my football guy. This is my entertainment guy. This is the comedian I like, right? You'd put them all in these little boxes and keep track of them. And what happened was when things got serious enough is everyone had to pick a side, right? And not all of your people picked the same side. And you had some comedians out there that were like, no, actually, I like Trump. And then your football guy over here would be like, actually, Trump's an asshole. And when people started picking different sides, these I guess I'll just call them famous people that pick sides, the rest of everyone else was left with a choice of like, who am I going to trust here? And this is how the truth just fractured and turn into a million little truths, and you don't know what's true and what's not. And just to get a sense of the world, it seems like everyone has settled into, I'm going to pick like one person, and that's going to be the person who defines for me the truth and what my opinion should be, right? And that's how Joe Rogan goes from a comedian who is, when the Joe Rogan podcast started gaining steam, he was talking about other comedians and comedy. And he was talking about people stealing jokes. And now he's got like presidential candidates on his podcast, right? Like, there's a reason that Alex Jones gets popular. It's because everyone's just looking for one person who will tell them, this is what the truth is. This is what you should believe. This is what your opinion should be, because there's just too much for everyone to we're also scared of stepping on a landmine with everything we say all the time, because there's just so much information out there. We know we don't have most of it. That you're like, well, I'll support this guy. And if he steps on a landmine, I'll just move on and support my second favorite person, right? We were just talking about fan-supported communities. The reason that I think this works is because I think people will trust me and you if we are authentic. And if we talk about all of the things that are real in our lives, which means the walls that we placed around people previously are just gone. No one is boxed in by anything anymore, except if you work in TV or radio and they're like, no, you must talk about this, which is exactly the type of shit we're trying to get away from. But this is how a Dave Portnoy, who starts as a sports commentator and then starts talking about how he's investing his money, and everyone's like, oh, I'm interested in this because Dave is making a lot of money on crypto and investments. I want to invest the way Dave is investing and make money with Dave. And then all of a sudden he's talking about the politics that are going into his Wall Street decisions. And now Dave Portnoy is an expert on all things, right? And he has an audience that's like, Dave is where I get my truth and the person who decides my opinions for me. And now the Trump administration is like, well, that's important. We need those guys to think that Trump is good so that they want to vote for us and they want to support us. And the same is true with Stephen A. Smith's people, and even to a certain extent, the guys like Colin Cowherd and whatever. But just these guys that Stephen A. Smith and Dave Portnoy are on Fox News all the time.
Right. Yeah. I mean, as a matter of fact, in the same story, I wasn't going to read the whole story, but, it goes through some of the background, because I'm sure, like a lot of other people, I probably know more than most about Dave Portnoy just because I followed it through the lens of sports. But as I was reading the same story, again, this is, NBC. During an appearance on the Fox Business Channel last month, I was like, what? Portnoy criticized billionaire Elon Musk overseeing Trump's reorganization of the federal government, and he's like, hey, I'm a stockholder in Tesla. I raise my eyebrows, I don't really know what's going on around here, blah, 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 blah. So, again, and I think even that would be news to people. And John, listen, like, it sounds like you're unsurprised by this sort of stuff, or less surprised than I am. Yeah. That, that Dave Portnoy, that there's this whole story about Dave Portnoy, or that the White House press secretary is being asked questions about Portnoy's selfie video where he's critical of this operation of what's going on with the Signal chat. But I will tell you, I'm in the middle a bit here. Again, some of this is sort of just thinking it through and saying it out loud, which is like it is. I think it's a decent hypothesis that Dave Portnoy carries more weight in the White House than the Associated Press.
Yes.
Again, I'm just going to say that again because I'm a little older, but it is still something that is, I think, wow. But a lot of the comments to the story, and this is where I'm trying to go with this, are like, who is that anyway? Is that the guy that eats the pizza? To your point. So, like, I think that this is news. I think that this is eye-opening for a lot of people. You could say, well, of course, he's this big influence and he's got this big company and he's got all this money and he's got all this influence and he's interviewed. But I think there are a lot of people who are like, wait a minute, why am I reading a story about this guy? I don't even understand. And what is Barstool Sports anyway? Like, I think there's a lot of people who, who would think that this is kind of surprising.
Yeah, I'm looking up right now to see how many followers Dave Portnoy has on X. 3.6 million. Now, to go back to our conversation about advertisers, why would Fox News or Fox Business have Dave fucking Portnoy on? Because they look at that number and they go, oh, he can blow out to 3.5 million people that he's coming on the air with us. They'll come and watch him because they obviously love Dave Portnoy. Why else would they subscribe to him on Twitter or X or whatever? They'll get a little bump. Right. And then they go, hey, our ratings are up, and then they sell ads against that, right? So, like, they're not actually saying Dave Portnoy is here to offer smart analysis or something or some breaking news. Like, name someone from the Associated Press that can bring 3 million people to a broadcast. You can't. That's not how the Associated Press works. They break news. They give you information. Like, they're the black and white fact checker people, right? But Dave Portnoy has an audience that he can bring with him. Stephen A. Smith has an audience that he can bring with him, to the point that, like, almost any TV show, any TV station is going to be like, yeah, sure, we'll have Dave Portnoy on the Weather Channel to talk about the weather in Boston because 3 million people will maybe tune in to watch Dave Portnoy. And it's just the ratings.
But it's even more than that, though, because and I think everything that you're saying makes a lot of sense. I mean, and I don't mean to cut you off, but in the same story, when they're talking about this, I mentioned he went on Fox Business or whatever.
Yeah.
And the story here says, in the same interview, Portnoy said he was offered a job in Trump's Commerce Department, but would have had to hand over the reins at Barstool Sports if he accepted. The Commerce Department did not respond to a request for comment seeking clarity on the job offer that Portnoy mentioned. And again, this isn't, I'm sure someone will listen and be like, oh, what? Like, I just want to hear about Jackson Merrill. But like, this is a sports website. This is a guy who started a company called Barstool Sports, who, again, I understand the impact and influence that this person has online and with a lot of their consumers, right? Their content consumers. But I got to admit, man, it's just blowing my freaking mind that he has this kind of influence with the White House.
It just got too complicated, right? That you couldn't box people in anymore. So the people that have been boxed in, it's like, no, this person has to stick to sports because they work for ESPN and they're on TV or whatever. Those people have basically been left in the dust in terms of importance, and everyone else has turned into someone who will and can have opinions on all things and will get brought on TV stations of all sorts. I mean, Stephen A. Smith goes on Fox News, and before that, or maybe still, has a recurring role on, like, Days of Our Lives. Like, why? Yes! My mom called me up, like, 2 years ago. She's like, who's this Stephen A. Smith guy? He's on my soap opera. Like, why would they do that? Is it because Stephen A. Smith can act? Absolutely not. It's because they think that 1 million people might show up to watch Stephen A. Smith try and play a character on a soap opera. And it's the same thing with Trump. Like, he got famous because he was famous. And people kept going, hey, if we bring the famous guy on, he'll bring people with him. And they were just making him more famous. And now we're in this situation where the truth doesn't matter. All that matters is how famous a person is. And Dave Portnoy is real famous. And so it doesn't matter that he's a sports guy. And it doesn't matter that his opinions are actually bad most of the time. It just matters that he's famous. And people want to capitalize on that to make money off it, which makes him more famous. Right. And we're just in a hell spiral.
And it's crazy because, I did watch the other video that he did, when I was scrolling through the one they did about when Zelensky was visiting. And he just parroted some of the stuff I think that has been proven to be factually inaccurate. And you're like, oh, God, what the fuck? But, I mean, that he seems to find himself now being praised by Pete Buttigieg and other Democrats. Even I'm going to move on. But even the last line of the story, speaking last week on Barstool's unnamed podcast. I didn't know they had one of those. I thought Jordan and I had the copyright.
The only
Portnoy
one.
said his father messaged him to say that Portnoy gained a lot of credibility with his take on the Signal chat fallout. He was later confronted with Caroline Levitt's comments and said, wow, great respect. They like me when they don't trash me. I'm like, whoa.
Oh, okay. Well, I mean, I think they're also afraid of him. But the transition, this is the transition. One of these people is Pat McAfee. And Pat McAfee was this guy who could talk about anything on his show because it was essentially independent, or maybe it was on Barstool. I don't even remember. And now it's on ESPN. And part of his
Barstool. He started on Barstool.
And part of his deal with ESPN was, I'm going to say whatever I want to say. You guys don't get to police me. I get to do my show the way it has been forever, and you guys get to run ads on it. And they were like, yeah, sure, we don't care as long as we get the ratings and the ads. And like, I have family members that are like, I hate ESPN, but I love Pat McAfee. I'm like, what a weird, and now there's this story, which I'll let you set up, where it's like people trust Pat McAfee to be the arbiter of truth, and then he gets something wrong, doesn't even really seem to care that it's wrong, and it ends up ruining lives.
Sorry, I'm distracted. $2,000 more were just liberated from my 401k.
We just need a live stream of your 401k.
Since we've been discussing this. Yeah, I mean, I have mixed thoughts on the story. And this is a story that was reported on The Athletic. ESPN's Pat McAfee and others amplified a false rumor. A teenager's life was destroyed in inverted commas. I feel like this is a long setup, but Were you aware of this story at all? Of what was
No.
developing online with this old miss?
Nope.
This couple, this college couple, they're dating. They're not married or anything. I kind of stumbled across it one day just because I saw somebody made a reference to it online, and I felt like, is this something that I need to know?
Yeah.
Like I find myself in these I mentioned this yesterday. I was out at SDFC training, and they had this YouTuber out there, and I was like, I don't. Should I know who that is? Like, am I the old guy? Probably.
Maybe.
And so from time to time, what happens is when you take 10 minutes of your life, you're sitting on the toilet and you're scrolling. You go like, well, what is this? What is this? Like, do I need to know about this? Should I know about this? What is this all about? And I'll confess to have known a little bit about this whenever it was that it started. But I don't even know how to put this into words. And it was late. I guess it was mid-February or so, and mid-late February. And there's just was some online thing happening with a girl who allegedly was dating a guy, and then the internet decided she was sleeping with the dude's father. And like, I gave it a couple minutes. I was like, this is not for me. If anybody's ever listened, this is not for me. I haven't waited 20 years to start doing that kind of content, just in case anybody's curious about that. And, I guess it got to the point where, people that are online a lot decided to turn this into content. And one of those places was the Pat McAfee show. And sounds like he might be facing a legal situation. I just, none of it is great. I do think that the way that the story is presented at The Athletic, it's a picture of McAfee and it's a picture of this 18, 19-year-old Ole Miss student.
Yeah.
And then there's some text messages on one side. And if you didn't know just at first glance, you would think it was McAfee texting this person, which is not the case. He just brought it up on the show, and I guess he amplified this rumor on the internet. I do think that the internet is really the ultimate villain in this story. That the internet, what it did to this person is the ultimate villain in this story, from what I can tell. But it's a hard thing even to set up because you really have to go into the details of what it is that's happened. It just apparently is a completely baseless rumor that started for whatever reason, like most internet rumors, and it ascended to the point where it was discussed for a minute or two, or referenced, I should say, referenced on the McAfee show.
Referenced and then joked about, which is the first sign that you probably shouldn't be listening to the Pat McAfee show. What a terrible thing to be making jokes about. But yeah, there was no effort to be like, this is a rumor, we're going to dig in and see if there's any truth to it, or take it with a grain of salt. It was, hey, did you hear about this girl at Ole Miss who, porked her boyfriend's dad? Blah, blah, blah. Jokes, move on to the next thing.
Right. I don't even think they got that specific. They just kind of threw out some innuendo.
Yeah.
Because they were talking about an Ole Miss football player or whatever.
Oh, yeah, with Adam Schefter, who was, it seems like part of the Athletic article implied they were just trying to make Schefter uncomfortable with this. I don't know. It's bad. And like I said, some of these people, Dave Portnoy and Pat McAfee and Stephen A. Smith, like some of these people don't realize that they've become the arbiter of truth to their a lot of their audience. And they're like just throwing stuff out willy-nilly, going like, oh, well, they desperately want my take on this thing. And they never even think to verify whether or not the thing is real. There's like, oh, everyone else is talking about this. I'll throw in my 2 cents too, because I don't want to be left out of this. And hey, look, part of that is how they've built their success. It's just be on top of everything, have opinions about everything. But yeah, I mean, look, I wasn't surprised by the story, but I also didn't look at it and go like, wow, Pat McAfee ruined this girl's life. It was just like, I don't know. This kind of goes into the whole thing of like ESPN, TV, radio, newspapers. It used to be we all shared the same truth, right? Like before the internet, Darren, if we were living in San Diego, you and I would have gotten our truth from the TV news, the radio news, and the local newspaper or a national newspaper. And all of those places essentially shared the same truth. So we knew what was real and what wasn't real, and we could kind of make up opinions on our own, or there'd be columnists that we could, get some stuff from. But now everyone gets to kind of make up their own truth. And that's where things have gotten really, really dangerous, because some of these people don't understand that that's the responsibility that their audience has given them.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think it was McAfee that was posting this girl's phone number. You know, she says something here I think that's important. You know, and I don't know enough about the legalese of it all to know where this is going. But, you know, she does say, you know, things were pretty rough for her anyway on the internet, but once this unsubstantiated rumor went to the show, you know, things got exponentially worse for her. So, yeah, I don't know how you prove that sort of stuff, but those are her words, not mine. You know, like I said, it's just the kind of thing I would stay away from in life, but maybe that's why I'm available every day at 10 a.m. I'm not sure, you know, because if those are the kind of things that you have to do to command that kind of money and that kind of audience, then, you know, I don't really think it's for me. Hey, how about that Jackson Merrill?
How about that Jackson Merrill?
As we discussed yesterday? By the way, yesterday's podcast, I enjoyed that. Talking about Jackson Merrill for almost like a full hour.
I know.
Talking about it. As predicted, though, you know, you do see, you know, not a lot, not like an in-depth analysis about Merrill's contract with the Padres. We talked about it yesterday.
No statement from Tony Clark.
I haven't seen any statements from the Players Association. Let me see the one. This was from The Athletic. Merrill's payday, while providing him with generational wealth, ensures some flexibility for the Padres before he potentially ascends into an even higher tier of stardom. Last month, The Athletic's Tim Britton projected that Jackson Merrill had earned a 15-year, $375 million extension, comparing him to the Seattle Mariners center fielder Julio Rodriguez.
Ooh.
Less than 3 years ago, Rodriguez was nearing the end of a similarly successful rookie season when he signed an extension that could max out at 15-plus years and more than $400 million. Merrill likely will make less than half of that, although he can test free agency in his early 30s. Quote, I am shocked that he took that amount, one rival executive said. So I think we did call that yesterday, that we would hear from the rival executives and the unnamed agents when they first started digging into this contract. I don't think any of this matters to Jackson Merrill, and good for him. He homered. The Padres are 7-0, and it's not a contract. He mentioned that he didn't want to hamstring the organization, and I couldn't help but think, yeah, you don't want to hamstring this organization, unlike some of the other guys in that clubhouse. But, you know, I think if he's happy with it, you know, the 9/135 that he's guaranteed, then who are any of us? Who is the rival executive? You know, who are the unnamed agents? You know, I mean, I understand what he represents for the future of the Players Association, as we discussed in great detail yesterday. Somebody brought up to me, you know, that Tatis, with similar service time, signed a 14-year contract for $325, was it, or $340? You know, I looked up the numbers, and Tatis's numbers were better.
Yeah.
But, you know, it was similar. You know, it was certainly similar. And, you know, Tatis is probably going to make more than double. But, you know, I mean, I guess, John, if this is what he wants and this is what makes him happy, and he appears to be very loyal to this agency that nobody really is familiar with, and he mentioned how loyal he was yesterday. I hadn't heard the press conference. How loyal he was to A.J. Preller because Preller was the first person ever to scout him. You know, if that's what really matters to the guy, then that's what fucking matters to the guy.
Then that's what matters to the guy. I want to pat myself on the back for a second here, because I saw two quotes from Merrill. I have one of them pulled up. I might be able to find the other one, but I don't know. Where in the other one, Merrill was talking about how he wants to be involved with every part of the organization now. He's like, get me involved with the marketing. Get me involved with the minor leagues. I want to be a part of front office decisions. And I said, like, you know, part of giving him this money is giving him a bigger voice in the locker room and being and saying to everyone else, like, he's just as important as a leader in this clubhouse as is Manny Machado, right? And you should respect him as such. The other one was this, which this was from a Dennis Lin article. This was a Jackson Merrill quote. The contract also comes with a lot of responsibility. Let me show DeVries. Let me show Salas. Let me show Cobb Hightower. Let me show these kids down there how it's done. You don't stop working. And so I pointed out that they probably wanted to sign this because he is a big developmental success for them, you know, right. Drafted, developed, and now a superstar going to be with the team for, you know, the next 10 years. But also, you know, just to have the him as the example for the other guys. Hey, Salas, this is what happens if you come up and you're great. Hey, DeVries, this is what happens if you come up and you're great. And then on top of that, Merrill seems determined to show everyone like, hey, I'm going to get my money and I'm still going to outwork you. And let's set that example, that money doesn't mean we get to stop working. Money is when we keep working, which, to your point about the 2023 team, and everyone was kind of there going like, well, I made the big money. I'm the superstar. Like, get out of my way. We'll figure it out eventually. And how that kind of ruined the vibes. Merrill is, I forget what you called him yesterday. The potion
unicorn.
Unicorn, but
he's one of those unicorns that are like, hey, we got a group of like him, Skeens, like really, really young dudes who are going to represent us in our future. This is the next wave that we have here. These are the products that we're going to be. Yeah.
He's just the opposite of what you were describing, like Josh Hader. Not to, shit on Josh Hader. I thought Josh Hader was fine. I think your whole thing of Josh Hader going like, why would I pitch 2 innings when I'm waiting, I'm about to hit free agency and you got all these other guys you're giving big money to and you're not asking them to do it. By the way, I meant to say yesterday, fuck you for mentioning the Drew Pomeranz contract without a trigger warning. That's like some serious trauma that I forgot about, and you mentioned it, and I wanted to put my head in my hands the second the name came out of your mouth. But yeah, it's you can tell that he's exactly the guy that the Padres want to get behind as an organization. And look, they love Machado and they love Tatis and they love the other guys. But you can tell Merrill's the guy that they're just like, if you give us 25 more of these, we'll take them.
Yeah. Yeah, I was really glad to. I was like, I don't know where I was. What was I doing yesterday? Oh, I was watching Barcelona play. Yeah. And I saw that he homered. I was like, of course he did.
Of course he did.
Like, of course he did. Why didn't you or I even predict that he would? You know what I mean? Like, it was such an obvious thing going back to like those gambling sites that we don't want to really promote unless maybe we have to. I don't know. But I just thought like, man, that was the easiest bet in the world. Is that he was going to get up there and he was just going to crank a homer out. 7-0. 7-0, John. I know this is not worth nothing or not worth anything. Nice grammar. I looked at Fangraphs. I mean, this is such an exercise. This is such a fool's
playoff
errand.
Chances?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who do you think has a better playoff chance right now, the Diamondbacks or the Padres?
I think it's got to be your screaming undefeated San Diego Padres.
Not according to Fangraphs. Who do you think has a better chance of making the playoffs right now? The 7-0 Padres or the 0-7 Braves, according to Fangraphs?
Oh, man. Don't tell me it's the Braves.
It is the Braves. The Braves, according to Fangraphs this morning, even at 0-7, have a 69.2% chance of making the postseason, where the Padres at 7-0 have a 53.3% chance of making the postseason. I don't think you should invest in any of these numbers. I'm sure this is just projection based and small sample size and not indicative of a broken, flawed data system that they have there. It just, it's something that made me laugh this morning because nobody knows. The Dodgers are 98.7% chance to make the postseason. The Mets currently, but that's the one that made me laugh, was the Braves at 0-7 have 69.2% chance, and the Padres are at 53.3%. So there you go.
That's hilarious. Also, earlier we were talking about advertisements. I almost mentioned this, so now I get a chance to. I listen to Bomani Jones' show, not every day, a couple times a week. And I haven't yet paid the subscription level to get the ad-free episodes. And part of the reason is like when Bomani reads ads, his voice is so different that when he starts, I can just hit the forward 30 seconds until I hear his voice go back to regular Bomani. And I wish I had that because right now what I really want to do is throw on my advertisement voice and be like, and that's why Baseball Reference is the best website out there for your baseball stats. Can we talk about the Molly Knight post?
Yeah.
I think she's still at The Athletic. The Molly Knight post on Bluesky that I sent you this
Do
morning.
people know who Molly Knight is?
Padres Twitter certainly knows who Molly Knight is because she's like a villain.
She wrote a book about the Dodgers a million years ago. She used to write for The Athletic. I interviewed her once on radio.
Yeah, she's fine. I've met her before. I'm friends with her. One of her close friends, her old roommate, Lana Berry, who old baseball Twitter people may remember.
Oh, yeah, whatever happened to her?
she got a job being a social media expert, and she rode that out to fame for a while. Well, not to fame, just to a successful business for a while. I don't know if that's still working for her. Hopefully, she seems fine. I think she got married. But she had a post, and I sent it to you, where she was saying that the Padres, despite being 7-0, let me find this. The Dodgers,
gist was they haven't played well, right?
The Dodgers, she said, the Dodgers are playing like shit. She puts in all caps. And they're 8-0. The Padres are playing terrific, also in all caps. And they are 7-0. And she said the Padres must be so mad. I think this team must be so mad on April 3rd is one of those like moments where Tim Flannery's looking at you going like, all right, kid.
Yeah,
like,
okay. Yeah, it's a big game.
It's a big game. And on fucking May 2nd. Like the Padres are not mad about shit right now. They're like, wow, we got off to a hot start. This is fun. They don't even play the Dodgers for like 2 months at least. It's amazing. But there's a point that I want to point out here. The Dodgers are playing like shit. Does she think we're idiots? Like, Will Smith currently has an OPS of 1257. Mookie Betts, who we were told a week ago was disintegrating into nothing,
right,
has an OPS of 1114. Michael Conforto, 1237. Shohei Ohtani, 1126. Freddie Freeman, 1083. Those are 5 people in their starting lineup that have an OPS over 1,000, and that's not including Tommy Edman, who is at 980. Let's go through the ERAs of their starting rotation. Yamamoto, 270. Blake Snell, 2. Tyler Glasnow, 0. Dustin May, 0. Like, what the fuck is she talking about? Just because Tanner Scott has not been that good for them in the first week of the season, all of a sudden the Dodgers are playing like shit. Just because Max Muncy didn't come out on fire means the Dodgers are playing like shit. Like, if you're going to represent your sport and you're going to represent even a team or a fan base, like, just be honest, man. Like, the Dodgers are 8-0 because the Dodgers are, even when they're not, everyone's not playing great. 2/3, 3/4 of the team is playing great. They're unbeatable. And that's also true of the Padres, who have like 3, like, does she even know that Luis Ariz, granted, hit a home run yesterday, good for him. Does she know that Luis Ariz is like hitting like terribly?
Yeah, I mean, how much better do you want the 8-0 Dodgers to be?
I don't know.
I mean, it sounds like one of these spoiled Barcelona fans where it's like, yeah, I know we won 4-0, but it should have been 7.
Yes.
And you're like, oh my God, can we just enjoy the 3 points and move on, please? Is this what it's going to be like all year for these annoying Dodger fans? And again, I'm with you. I don't dislike her. And I only met her once or twice. But yeah, like, is this actually how miserable it's going to be? Even when your team is 8-0, you're like, still not playing well. Yeah, I don't know. Like, is that what life is going to be like? Because there's a lot more to go. Like, there's 154 more of these games to go. And is it going to be, I mean, 8-0. I can't, that just sounds awful. Like, that just sounds like it's such an awful existence. Now, I will say she also pointed out that she thought that the Padres were playing well. And she thought that the NL West is going to be amazing because you look around and you're like, whoa, 8-0, 7-0. Diamondbacks are playing really well. The Giants are off to a pretty good start. Yeah. The poor Rockies just, they're just going to sit here and get fucking clobbered all season long.
Who did Bud Black kill? Like, he's got some terrible karma on him.
All right. But, I mean, she did point that out. But, I mean, I'm with you a bit. It's like, you want me to roll my eyes. Like, you definitely want us to roll our eyes when you're like, yeah, they're 8-0 and they're not playing well. You're like, oh, fucking give me a break. Are you fucking kidding me? Like, you cannot be starting that shit on April 3rd when your team's off to an 8-0 start and you're sitting here somehow worried because, or pointing out the fact that they haven't been perfect. Yeah, after they've already gone to Japan, by the way. They already go to Japan halfway across the world and like, they're not even playing well. Oh, okay.
I can't wait for the post heading into the playoffs when she's like, hey, Dodgers won 130 games and we haven't even seen their best baseball yet. Like, what the hell is she talking about? I understand that they are overwhelmingly talented. I totally get that. But
it's because winning is boring. Hacksaw told me this a million years ago. When the Chargers were winning 10, 11 games in a row, he's like, we need a loss. Like, this is boring. He's like, all this winning. I was joking with my friends in radio last year when the Padres were doing things in the second half. I was like, all that winning is boring. Like, you need something. Like a 7-0 start. Trust me when I tell you, I'm not going to rat anybody out. It's like, you want a little like, I always remember that from Haxley. It's like, man, it's like 10 in a row. God damn, like we need a loss around here. So otherwise it's just like, okay, same old. I don't know. I feel like that's us though. I feel like that's us in the industry. It doesn't seem to me like anybody sitting around either Dodger Stadium or Petco Park for the last week being like, well, I don't know. Everybody seems to be enjoying it. It is portending for a really, really, really fun summer.
I also feel like, and granted, this could totally be me trapped inside my own bubble, but like the funny things about what happened at the end of their playoff series, and you were talking about, you thought that it would be stuck in the Padres' head, and I talked about maybe it is as a motivational factor. Like, the Dodgers won the World Series. They have built probably the most talented baseball team we've ever seen in our lives. They are 8-0 despite playing imperfect baseball, which that's fine. Pretty much everyone plays imperfect baseball. They are 8-0 despite playing imperfect baseball after a trip to Japan, after Mookie Betts sounded like he should go to a hospital. They're 8-0. And they're still thinking about the Padres.
I know, it's amazing, right?
I don't think the Padres are really thinking about the Dodgers right now.
It's still the psychological warfare that exists. If it's not coming from them directly on Mookie Betts' podcast, it's coming from some of the surrogates around there. And it is, it is part of it. You're right. And that's like, the Padres must be so, what? They're so mad that they don't have a 1-game lead in the NL West standings on April 3rd. Like, you think they're really going, gee, I don't know, man. We talked about Sisyphus on one of the other podcasts. You think the Padres are really going, we played so well. How are we not in first place? Oh, man, we are shook. Good luck to the Padres this weekend in Chicago.
They're watching the standings on April 3rd. They're absolutely waking up in the morning. What did the Dodgers do last night?
Right. Yeah. I mean, that's something for us. I mean, that's something. I don't think the Padres are so mad that they don't have a half a game lead over the Dodgers in the NL West standings on April 3rd. I think we know well enough to know. Because that's meaningless. That doesn't mean jack shit today. So
yeah, it's just weird. It's just weird. And like honestly, I've spent a lot of my Padres fandom telling Padre fans who are like, the Dodgers are our rivals. That like the Dodgers don't consider you their rivals. Like you might consider the Dodgers your rivals. The Dodgers consider the Giants their rivals.
It's okay I mean, they're division rivals. They are division rivals, and the Padres are probably the biggest threat. But I don't know. I just don't. I like to avoid that conversation.
It's just
if you want to consider them a rival, then do whatever you want. It's like the Larry David line. Do whatever you want to do with that. All anybody's pointing out is not to be the actually guy. Yeah, I mean, there is a history that is, way longer between the Giants and the Dodgers that has gone from one coast to the other. So in terms of like traditional, there were times where Alabama had to get through LSU and LSU had to get through Alabama.
Yeah.
But Alabama and Auburn, that's all. Anyway, I hate picking at that scab myself. All righty. It doesn't sound like we'll do anything tomorrow on Friday.
I'm going to be
But
driving.
again, thank you to everybody who's subscribed or sent us a message and appreciate some of the kind things that have been said about the show and about us as individuals or as a collective. I will be on the pregame show Saturday night, Snapdragon Stadium, SDFC hosting Seattle Sounders. Looking forward to that. I will have an interview with Alex Mighton. Did I tell you that I interviewed Alex Mighton for the pregame show?
You said he was great.
He was very good. He's very good. The picture that we had of Alex Mighton that was given to us before he signed, he had dreads. He just cut them off this week. So we talked a little bit about that.
Yeah, he had dreads a couple weeks ago. That's funny because I saw him, I think, in the last game, and I was like, didn't he? That's a little different than what I remember him looking like.
Yeah.
Maybe that's why he's faster.
Did I tell you that?
What, did he cut off his dreads?
No, that was the answer that he gave?
No, is that the answer that he gave? Does it actually make him feel faster?
He said, I feel faster without him.
That's fucking awesome.
Yeah, he actually did say that. It was a good answer. He's a bright kid. So anyway, we'll see you Saturday night, 7 o'clock. I think we're on 760. Are you going to watch any Final Four this weekend?
No.
Four number one seeds doesn't do it for you, or just?
I'm just college basketball is. Who are the 4 number 1 seeds?
Let's see. I think it's Florida.
Okay.
Auburn.
So Florida's got the Giant. I'm trying to think of like
Duke?
Oh, okay. I might watch a Duke game for Cooper Flag. I think he's playing again.
And let's see. Duke is playing
UCLA,
Florida, I
that's women's.
believe. And then Auburn is Houston.
Yeah, I mean, like,
Houston, by the way, is a team that San Diego State beat earlier this year.
that is true. I saw that a couple weeks ago when I was looking. I was like, "There's no impressive wins here," and I was like, "Oh, I guess Houston wasn't very good." I didn't realize they ended up.
They're a number 1 seed in the Final Four. I mean, that's the kind of thing where if it were my alma mater, I'd be like, hell yeah, I would beat the number 1 seed.
Yeah. No, I'll probably watch if there's nothing else on. But if it's competing with Padres or San Diego FC, nah, I'm gonna go with the local teams. I think.
Did you watch a little Inter Miami and LAFC last night? LAFC beat Messi and Suarez and Jordi Alba and all of it. I mean, though, it was a full squad that Inter Miami brought, just to give you a little more context for what it was that happened this previous Saturday night. But
So who did LAFC win?
LAFC won 1-0. Yeah.
Damn.
Boy, that would be a nightmare. I don't want to say nightmare, but man, after what happened last year with Inter Miami and Messi getting bounced out of the first round of the postseason, if they were to get knocked out of this tournament too in April, that would be interesting.
I no, as you know, as someone who travels, when you are not at home, I mean, when you are home, you have your 3 TV set up.
Yep.
And then when you're not home, it's uncomfortable because you don't know where to find stuff or how to find it, and you want to watch 2 things at once and you can't. So no, I did not. I knew that was on last night, and I thought about it, and I was like, no, we're doing family stuff, vacation. I don't want to mess with all that, but no, I'm looking forward. I really like watching Inter Miami. It's, Messi still feels like he's at a different speed than everyone else, which is just really fun and entertaining to watch.
Yeah, I'm with you. I went to a game last year at Miami.
Yeah, was it great?
No.
Really?
It was really disappointing, actually.
Why?
I mean, I walked out of there happy that I went. I saw Messi scored a goal. They lost to Atlanta United. I was just disappointed in the fans.
Really?
I was like, you guys have Lionel Messi playing here, and Sergio Busquets and Luis Suarez, but Messi's the draw.
But also, like, Beckham is supposed to be part of the draw too, right?
Now, I will admit, like, this is a temporary stadium, and it's a bit difficult to get to. It's actually in Fort Lauderdale, so it's not real. It's not that close to Miami.
Yeah,
and it's kind of a pain in the ass off the I-95 there, and you park in some dirt lot, and you gotta walk. It's in the rain. But anyway, you get there, and it's a temporary thing because they're building a better, a new stadium somewhere downtown in Miami, in actual Miami. And, everybody's wearing a Messi jersey. Everybody who's there is wearing either a Barcelona Messi jersey or an Argentina Messi jersey, or there's a couple PSG Messi jerseys, or there's a lot of Inter Miami. Everybody's wearing one of those.
no Suarez jerseys?
No what?
No love for Suarez?
Didn't see any. Didn't see any at all. So, everybody's there wearing some sort of Messi gear. And, I guess, what happened was, I don't remember exactly. Atlanta went up 1-0, and then maybe they went up 2-1, and then Messi scored, and it was 2-1. And I turned to Lee, and I was like, "Watch what happens here."
They pull him?
He's gonna run circles around these clowns.
Yeah, sure.
Like I've seen this a time or two.
Yeah.
In Barcelona, I've seen what he can do here.
Of course.
And then Atlanta scored a third goal, like in the 82nd minute. Yeah. It was 3-1 Atlanta. 82nd.
Okay.
And I'm still,
yeah,
she's like, you still think they're going to win? I'm like, try. This is Messi we're talking about.
Or at least a tie, yeah.
Their supporter section, John, started rolling up their banners. Like, they're like, all right, well, I guess we're out of here. Everybody started heading to the exits at 3-1 in the 82nd minute. I looked down, I was like, I feel sad for him. I know he's making a bunch of money and he's happy. But I was like, I kind of feel sad that we're in this fucking parking lot in the middle of Fort Lauderdale. And even his own supporters, your ultras, are sitting there like, well, I guess that's the night. And they were taking their banners down before the final whistle blew. And Messi was still on the field. I was really insulted.
I would have been furious. We talked about this on Monday, I think maybe off the podcast with Estella from Mason Ale Works. We were talking about how, supporters sections, you don't go to really see the game, right? You go to support the team. And I think you and her were even talking about, the road teams, when the home team scores, the road supporters don't even, it's not even noticeable. They just keep on going.
Keep going.
Supporters clubs go until it's over. Like, even sometimes they go past when it's over.
You're the energy for the whole operation. It's like, once you pull the plug, you've pulled the plug on the whole night.
That's disappointing.
That was really disappointing, man.
I think Miami's. I like Miami. I think it's cool. I think their fans are kind of cool sometimes. But yeah, that's really disappointing.
That was really a bummer. But I got to see him play and I got to see him score. And listen, I'm not invested in that game anyway. So
are they coming to San Diego this year? Probably not.
They're not.
Damn.
They're not. Yeah, I don't think anybody was too pleased with that one. But who's coming to town? Seattle Sounders.
Saturday.
Yep. Adrian Garcia Marquez and Warren will have the call, and I'll have the pre, the half, and the post. So
if you're watching on Apple TV, all you have to do is press up on your remote, and you'll see there's two little buttons on the right side. One of them looks like a chat bubble. That's if you want to turn on subtitles or turn them off. And next to that's a little thing that looks like an audio wave, like a little line going up and down. If you click that, you can switch the audio of the broadcast from TV to the home radio broadcast, which this week would be Warren and Adrian, which I'm definitely going to do.
All right, Padres in Chicago. See what the Cubs did to the A's, 35-9. They outscore them. Ugh, not great. Next two opponents, Cubs and A's. So we'll be back. Our plan is to be back on Monday. So thank you to everybody for tuning in. John, thanks for taking a couple minutes away from your vacation. Safe travel, and we'll see you back in San Diego on Monday.
See you, bud.